Okay, so in this video, this is our last section in Chapter 5. We're going to solve quadratic inequalities. So it's very similar to what we did in Chapter 3, but now instead of working with a line, we're dealing with a quadratic. And so we're going to deal with it in 1 and 2 variables. One variable is graphing on a number line, and that's where we would, shade to the right, shade to the left. 2 variables is where when we had a line, we would shade below or above the line. And so we're going to apply that same principle to quadratics. And so let's go ahead and take a look at and we're going to go ahead and solve x squared plus 3x minus 4 less than 0, and we're going to graph the solution on a number line. So this is considered one variable because we're just graphing on a number line. So in order to find out when this when this function is less than 0, I'm basically asking myself what x values are going to be causing this thing to be negative. Okay? So what x's will make this whole thing, the equation, equal to a negative number. Okay? So if we look at the graph, here's an image of the graph, and we should recognize the fact that this guy on the left side, this is y. This whole thing is y. So I really want to know when y is less than 0. And so if we look at our intercepts below this graph right here, these pieces are where it's all less than 0. So what we need to do is we need to find our x-intercepts, because these create our boundaries for what we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor x squared plus 3x minus 4. So what two numbers multiply to negative 4 but add to 3? That's a positive 4 and a negative 1. I set it equal to 0 and solve. And so my two boundaries are negative 4 and 1. And if we look at this, the graph itself is below the x-axis between 1 and 4. So in conjunction with the graph of the parabola and the zeros, I'm able to create my inequality. Any x value that's less than 1 or greater than negative 4 will produce a negative value, because when we look at our graph, any x value between 1 and negative 4 is the part of the parabola that dips underneath 0 or has all negative y values. And then to graph this on a number line, we plot the 1, here's 0, here's negative 4. We have an open circle because we cannot equal those guys. And so this right here would be my solution. We can do a quick check, and 0 is one of the values that's in our range, right? So what happens when we plug in 0? I'm left with negative 4. And is negative 4 less than 0? Our check works. We have the appropriate inequality set for this problem. And this is how we can work with graphing a solution for an inequality of a quadratic.